ach tu yek e wujin chasati stakat Johan. Qich yechat yati. Ya hastu ani owe. Qich kwan. Ḳák'w an yidu asagtsu. Ya qa I chwalatu we adatki. Hastu I chwalatiu. Ya hastu ani ka. Ach tu yek e chat yati. Tleka at kachago. Du yejne awe utisatin. Kutie aya ka awati. Ka ati. Ya ka yak. Yak aya. Da awe utisatin yayaki. We adatki. Qanachwer tuasagu lingit hasawasku. Yak. Ka nakaya du hiti. Yak ayati. Ya du kusi ko a klidzi. Atwe du kachaya yu tuchwatang. Chitlak yiki. Du kachaya yu tuchwatang. Ya hawush kanachwatu da adi. Adat aya. Shkashnik. Aqaqan qil kiyu katangitsu. Da yidet ko a shkashnik. Shukwa a. Nats tla ka shachukwa. Has awa akaushahit du qeidr. Shaadaaxʼ. Shaadaaxʼ awe Ḥák'w dechusatien. Ḥák'w aya ayehas wutien qa angun adehas ulgaats. Yuqawe kwalke uwawat ch'aqw. Ya qanach shkalnik tz'atich wusati. Ya da dech shkalnik tal just tlaika shukwa a Ḥák'w da ay iti a we daklawedi hawulgaatsen. Daklawedi has wulgaatsen. Adat aya gwal kaki ach guksa we chakuta qone yakwahih. Diyuqatangi aya at gachtisa ach aqa awe we kiknach diyuqatangi kik like gachtu tu. A itcha wujin gachtu sa a tlingit enach just tlingit enach ya yidan. Gwal da kun jen kat winnets chanach. Ye gachi glak stakat Johan. Ya egi eitlini kach awe chwallatin. Kunach awe kaudua yetl. Adat yutachutan ach tuasagu yituwu wadu ga ye. Joe yin kachani keshwasaka kwati. Ya just hayukatangi hadaye kwati. Joe ya haswatua ik. Ja, hartlichko has. Ha inach inaste, Johan. Weshkashni gujin. Gatkachtu saach. Hachag Ḥák'w yach. Washkanachoy chag. Chana at chai itch. Qunea kunshkatilnigen. Ye awa hatuati. Yag tsu. Gunchish klein away ye jene. Ye tu ye tihlzin. Tullawut. Qa tillaan qa qusachan. Joe Yahweh tlatsini nak hiti tu ye yiti. Qawe tlaani nak hiti yihaya ti wujin. Ye awa adata yutikhutang yayaki. Qone yakwahih duqeidh tlakhlakutsi aya. Akhtuasagu I satini qa ye ahi. Yag khechne qa khway nak. Dana da ye hasji wanean. Yisatin nats tla shachuka hasa kaushahit yada. Aqa awe hastu ji dawati we tapes you do a sago at. Hastu ji ye wutian khechne du ji tasawati qa khwayinak. Ada ye hasji wanean. Kech hastu ji ye wutian ilan Llydzi gwallwe tape recorder kanachwe has kanal cheuch. Ya yidata jiwa yis kashukati hajishaguni. Ya qane ayat yuqatangi gartisa ya yida.
Ane ayo yoha ane Ḥák'w ayo T'aawáxʼ tret Ḥák'w basket be. Ayo asha to khustin yutatk. Ḥák'asiye yahayo yate yutatk. Ya yanda yak aslenin ayo kenakati akha ayo kanto khej. Yukhis ayo konakakan utaj. Ya antayite teil kakane Ḥák'w ayo anna atch. Ya antayite. Ya tutskuwo ihayak ya Ḥák'w ashakanach anahayo. Ashakanach anahayo yu aya atk. Ya antayite. Zetayo auto wachot aken. Asayo ayo zet khotokiyekh. Anahaya ya aka atchin yu antayite. Teil khajiyena tijadek duskanch. Ḥák'w aya shatukhusht ya tsa ya antayik. Shakhadyede ataya atuta haja diye. Aya ya khis latini ko aya tokastich. Kena hayo yu iqiyan ohanj. Kena hayo yu hitkak akanokch. Dak ko awewe Ḥák'w shaki. Nuski awe aya hanuk Ḥák'w shaki. Dakun awe chukewe wushke ya khan. Chute iqtahyawunate nitinawe ke T'aawáḳ. Te iqtahyawata. Chute yu hitkat aqet wasqatutinen iqtahyawata. Ye ayo hastukuk ya kakhich. Chute ya huche ayijaya an ya wusnachaya ye ya etaqich. Te iqtahyawata. Ḥák'w ya khajapate. Ya ashekachuk nahaya kinde shatukhut ya tsayuwo. Anahaya tu ukhs. T'aawáxʼ. Ḥák'w ya satkiyo haye. Uwaya ya shanatike ya hayo natich ate ya satkiye. Chute shate ya haya yu yanik. Ya haye. Chute Ḥák'w ye jitonenoch. Ya khajakotitak. Chute yande ya yendus ninitinawe kundakilchawe. Ḥák'w kinde yuzet katawe khasukuk. Kakikto aya. Awech awe teil Ḥák'w ya apkhasanakuk. Chute aya anaknish uat ya khajakote. Yan khateyak atenen nawe tsa. Yan khateyak atenen aka awa ya khaya khanakhawe. Ya Ḥák'w ya yinakhawe kinde anaskuk nuch. Ya khajakote. Aya ye aya chute chasiyako khadak kukhchin nuch. Ye aya yakshutan. Yashkasnik. Ye aya tu Ḥák'w atat ya Ḥák'w atakh haatikh sitiye. Atakh haatikh sitiye. Nahle de chagwaya de chagw. Atakh hatu Ḥák'w achatu trisakw. Ḥák'wete. Shugunach ate yatkawde ya yiye. Ya singet. Siyete henne ayesh kasnik. Ya ikhi nachaya. Hataw sitak. Ja, ich keh. Ja, sietehenne stakhidik nach jausitak. Stakhidik nach. Ja, ach, ich hast du taknut. Ja, stakhin yiknach. Ja, hast du stake. Take a tea, ayo ak. Ja, hin. Sit tayi denata. Ak ayaw ututlitsit ya khanat. Akakaya ye hasutowa uyasha nakusan. Awastiyo atawasak Ḳák'w wasik. Yasha nakusan. Hasaya shuko nakya sit tayi teta kasutowa kok. Atayi nakas katlasha wahe nakate kesat kawashe. Ya sit tayi nakasu tlashi aya atat shukaw kekhoch. Akakaya khanat evdutsin. Akate T'aawáḳ. Atayi nakaya ya sit tayi nakaya kulehash. Ya ichte. Sushiyatehene ako aya akautechik. Ya sit tayi tewusash. Ajaya akat T'aawáḳ. Ya sit kat T'aawáḳ. Aya jilkat nakyewa at ya ach ishas khunke. Ya taklawete. Jilkat achasusite. Ya sitkat awo ate aya akaksa aya sitka. Yukoto wasak. Ya jilkat nakyewa ate. Ya uhan. Ya deshitan khasatiye. Chayata chuna ya. Yes, akanik. Ja, ich kinach. Ja, ich kinach. Gut, nach saksie kutua at uhan. Gut, saksie nach kutua at. Atachayatsa. Ja, nande. Ja, nande. Kuna ye kutua she. Siyate henne ye kautua ak. Siyate henne ye an kututriyech. Weka wawe. Ja, kutsnu ya ak. Ja, ik kat T'aawáḳ. Weka wawe. Akata kusicatsiye. Hashiyete hene yaha khunche. Ya deshitan. Ya dakak ye adakyate. Chucha kutakh aye hasyate. Shiyete hen. Ya nahuwo aye yate. Kaya aksaye. Shaadaaxʼ aye yate. Ya dakka. Aya ata tukhwatanke aya. Has chucha kutakh aye stiye. Has tu inke ya wuchtakawustaqen. Ye aya ta tukhwatanke nuch. Achya ilkata kaude ya. Uhan ko. Chaye aya. Ḳák'w yashkasnik.
Asagi tuvuchata.
tuasigu ka latsin kis latini ku Dakwedi Shkalnik Yahin Sitayidi Shaadaaxʼ T'aawáḳ T'aawáxʼ Awaste Kakuasiki the dal Khat Kija Yasit Tayanak Hawashi Ayahas Shukadli Cook Leitka Kanak floating under the glacier gave them their song. Yasit Tayanak under the glacier. Haswulhashi they floated, the floating of them. Ayah hat us that has done Shuaklikuk their song. Akwaji, which part is their song? Zakun. Gunash Chish, safe. Tlinket Ktanki Tu Shadahini Akuya Aya Alkadli Kishe. Oh Aktu Aks Kwasiku Akadli Kish Zaif Ak Idea Nidashin you do a sock, klel, a kautikit. Goodness, chish. Oh, Isaach.
Yak echa a taskaulishi ye awachan katanik. Shukwa ai sit tai de haskuchlahash awasti kuwatzech. Kalwut sku and wasat kukwane. Ye awachwa ach she we how hast du da awakau du a duch. Kot yende ye ausene. Yende yanis Yende yanis we sit quash a gay de away ye hashi. Quash ikwana a itch. Klidzi, kleshwutis kuwasat kukwane, wegao. Kachonach yit kaya hasuya na ati. Na joem, a datio tuchwatang kwasa atbune. Has yitin de hich, a haste tu, klesh has awaska. Vishukwa atshe. Iya he. Iya he. Iya he. Iya he. Iya he. Ya katsu tsuk tsuk tsuk. Ye awe yak yakshi yak kashi. Wat wuj it kegachtushi chokudza hastu. Hastu yawat koa. Shoot has out ak. Klei nach yis ka sit kanachewe wujahi. has to يقاوي شي like has to قوتيز والأوستين ويتساق هسا يا وطلاق ديخ أتشي جو ديخي أدق لويدي آيه يخوجي أخو آوي ينيدي هستو آيخ ستيتو جا ديختنا وأخانيا أخليلكو هس آيقو وديخ وأدي أوي كدوتلشية ودايخ ودايخ وصادوس يادتشون شكوى جوية يادتشون إدخا جوية دهوش يادا هي هي يا ها هي يا ها هي ها هي هي يا ها هي يا ها هي ها هي هي يا ها هي يا ها هي ها هي هي يا هي يا هي ها وشكوى داك ياي لطاق ويدياك داك ياي لطاق ويدياك هي ها أقا ويدتشون أقا ويديخ أيخ قاي لطاق ويدياك أيخ قاي لطاق ويدياك هي ها يأوه يا يدتي أو ديو تسكو وأتشي أأوه tlach juchak tlach konach hast du sanku ayakoa kutzati achyatki du wa ach decha achyatki du kik aya techa achyid du dlak awaste an gun dach aya utusakuha wal gushakawe du katagu ye awa yirat bobus gusu yata isakuga ilqaku isakuga gusayag an gun yuduasa kasta ani yag yad aqoa Ḳák'w hasta ani awat Ḳák'waydi gwalliag winadayihin qad hasta yawatlaaq yug halqaw ha ina kawanik tlach shakliqi aya wiqad yata adach qayag gwalliata yewuti witzakidki hastushkalniki aya halqaw ha ina kawlanik qoa witzakidki Gudachsa we tlaika dech skalnik kutzatiag just a tlaiki ye achige jagutiete away yuqewatan achu tlechwa tu dasa chwa achze de yuqatangi elwasa oti ya ko a katratseok akdaqasa we yak kenas nu ka kwalyak tsagwa T'aawáḳ ya q'eyati Ḳák'w. Ya q'eyqatyati hasta ani Ḥák'w an q'íq. Ada ya du'a lluk'áq. Gudachsoy we lluk'áq ati. Ya du'a shtaghin. Hechwasaku guchsa we sit qanachwe chuch'áq. At tayi nachas wulahash. Ya du'a qo atalqanach kusha. We gao an qashiqu. Llingitani owa ashawlitlit. Aqa awe ya du talqu. Talquydi awe yahawutiyan. An qashiqu qo atalqanach kusha shakik yahawutiyan. We talquydi. Kiks adi. Tihitan. Kwashi ayahawutiyan. Atlain qu at daqde hasbu aden. Hast du tuasaku qo eil. We iqde hasbu adi. Hechwasaku guchsa we sit tlain. Ye awech wa ach. Gulqone aya we deich atshi. Daga llatak we de ya ke. Tlain chanas awe wudutle yecha. Shietihine ku. Sit taich. Kesh de kat has ko Ach ye awe ye has kuyaw sika. Kesh hatua ushku sit taich wutu. Hawl hashi. Gwelchys daqde aya gachtu ad. Pwchde. Yadach. Tlach lidzi. Wasa kunach na kide hasfu aden. Yadu has de ani ya yidat. Deslin. Atlain. Agre hasfutin gwell kunach yag. Tlech atlain ye hasfutin wega. Tlaguko tlech din hosaku wasa atwunig ko ye fajina kide hasfu aden. Dísi tan qadaklwedi. Qayanyedi. Aqa awe yada kanach hasfu aden. Yada kanach. Aqa awe wede hasfu aden. Achu awe daklwedi. Tlech is yag. Tlach kanach nalli. Yada kanach. Aqa awe. Tlach an aye hasfutien. Tlakatet adach. Tlach tlakutzi awe. Tlidzi just atwu kuchu. Wede. Shitihine ku urkoa. Hasfu ad. Ajawe shakakuni yidu sakweqa. We Dísi tan. Chagwell deslin ku daqqa ku aye hasfutien. Wushjin haswut. Wushjin haswut. Wutlet like Wutle Glegu Shakakunie oka. Wuhan Kleshatuashku Sit Taide Wutu Hawulhashen Ajawe Tuk on Aye Wawutian Hadeshitan Kataklawedi Ake Haswatian. Ye awe Kanakwe Yukachwajik Nuchada Yukachwajik Ilchish.
Kawa os actuasugo. You shashnig Shaadaaxʼ kenach kedach. Shakhsani ke anakugut.
وديخ شوقصاني وحسبوت لهاش ست تايخ شيدهيني قو أخو قوة قل دقتي حسبو آتن
How dasadat yuchan wasa yitu datan yukhajik. Nashish.
وقع أدتكي وقا شوت قا ينمات وجين حسبو آت يخوجي جلتك خط وقو هخوسكو قوة كي
Nashish.
We Dakakwang away we Chushugu Deshiton Ḳák'w away Daka Old Billy Hall David Wedge Shaadaaxʼ. Oh, Old Billy Hall David Hammond Nahuwu Yudusogan David Wedge Shaadaaxʼ Yudusogan Jushugu we Ḳák'w.
بيئة قل 1000 Tag wusdachi has ausneien. De sugar sak ukkutseti. Tachtlekutsi. Okay.
Wo
Ah.
tus
Good day.
bunartish wo tus ko ge gin ta sa shua chi yashkarlik ada we dachnach shawat shan haswurlahash tai sit tai gwash we tich 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 yi ke jinkat 1000 tak.
Ye owa. We talkunach kusha. A kai yeyati. Tehu yudu asago at atling te wush cut away a kawa chuck. A ka away tick. Ye owa budliegen. Llach da llwni tin. Llach da llwni ko a qeqa sai qutzati. Ti. Ti tin awe a cow dutza tichen. Cow dutza tichen chak. Tich out le yech. A cow sa tich. Ye awe a de yech a du a kai. Ye awe chwa ach. With tlag gu tich. Qutzati. Sha shakich. Ye awe chana kawa nigan. Kleinach ka. Chwasakugu sawe tik. Tlka inkak gwanik ka. Chwasaku hasti tuwasagu. At hasawa shi. Washwe ta gudach tik ka. A kawa ak ke has. A jiksati. Kadanjach kuchsati. Wasat ta gudach aya. A jwe tlach tuwashku wudus ku guksa ye wuti. Ach tuwasagu chwasatini ka. We an qashku. Achu adakte haswa aten. Achu ako ayakiekt shashakit. Haswud haswus anen. He awekwash akei wutien ye ach. Just wekuu. Kate tin kuu. Haswu nech. Llingit keitlich awe. Kusanech. Gitchaltakatwe dachte sego atwe atkatu addi. Hasakawa ak yikte haswu de kleden. You ayach wutjachin hastu yagu. Haswu se T'aawáḳ. We kate kawa awasha. Hastu yagu hande. Haswu huan. Atwe dech kate lach jiu. Was su aya shikkwatlit klingadani. Ach yagu yikt ya judechi ach kate. Gilchis. I eat the ash.
That's Ḳák'w. T'aawáḳ. Yeah, kicks Addy. Sit taide. Sit cut. Wugut. Slash Ḳák'w. Ach is kicks Addy. Kagwantan. Khataya. Kua. Ach tua sigu. Gusa ach ishtach. Sit taide. Sit kak. Isikuge.
I inkakwanik dasachwa ach kawasaye hwachi. Tlachach tuash gut akut nach sati hast du shagun dat yuchach de tanen. Ach tuasagu tusaku koa. Ja du tlach. Gwalki we yahin we nas hini. Yiknach aya haswa aten. We shukwa lingit. Ikte lingit aya. Yak haswutien tanta. Aka awe aku yadu kitchan. Kitchan adachna kide. Yadu yisqi. Kende. Kejachlitsak. Yes, like yisqi kutsiti yak. De kakinach aku yesbe. Atiyanach. Dech kutsiti. We nach. Yadu Qa nach yidu sago at yak. Qa nach ta yak. Adach awe we qa nach ati qa nach teidi. Qa nach ta ati. Yadu hastu tuwan kicks yidu sago Qeqa has kutsiti we kicks ati yak. Kicks ati ye haswutian. Qunni chakut ani de haswu atin qa Yadu kinde. Wishtakin. Ka Talqu aya aye wutin we talqwidi. Ye awechwa ach we adistakin adechanen. Yadu talqunach usha. A shakit ye haswutian talqwidi. Kicks adi tihitan. We an qalqu. Takte qoa. Dísi tan. Ka daklawidi. Gwalli nanya ay qaqa nach adi ye haswutian. Qeqa at achtundatani yetij at dech aqustiin wega. Daqte hasbu aten. Hechwasaku guksa deishu het we shukwa deishu het has awlechen. Dak eo has ausatin at jawe daklawedi kadeshi tan kuwastien. At dakhwe hasbu aten. Gwaldakun gwalkijin aye. Gwaldakun aye haswatien we nachsati. Ach a shashaki dakhasbu aten. Kiksadi talqidi tietan. Kiksadi gwalkis hastu ani aya aye wutien. Yak Ajagukria. Yatalqidi qoa adakhasbu aten. Yade. Gwal hechwasagu wasa iqte hasbu aten shashakidach. Wushdach has wusadaq qoa. Akhu ahlukach de lukach adi. Akhu aqaj de qaj adi. Ye awa uhan wushdach hausadaq. Chaq qoa talqidi hawustien. Kiksadi qoa kiks adihas wusati. Ajwayak haswati. We anqashaqu itch the cut yede qoa qanach adi kiks adi qa yehwaji an qashaqu we qis satqu yeqa dakwu shayan gwalchakut qu ha anid we lingat anide haswu aten qate qwedi awe qutsati gwalki we gao ajwe chakut yede aya ade yuq adul atkiya tanta yidati a lingat na ki lingat yudu sago at we te qwedi aya tanta adach haswu llagatsan yadu a we tan yudu sag hechasuku guksa yak ko a shank we te qwedi adach shankwedi awe qutsati haswu sadak aqa su ade aya qanaqltakat yede aqa shangukedi yak ayeti qir ach awe te qwedi yak haswutiense su ade yak atlein at yawahi Ḥák'w has awllayech Ḥák'w kedi Ḥák'w kedi te qwedi dachaya qagwall ltakat has qwtsati adach Kagwantan, Chukanedi, Kawushkitan, Yuk, Askudzati. Tlachlakudzi ayatlingit shkatlniki qatlingit qusti qatlingit shagun. Which yach katu dal te katuhan. Chakutachsawe uhan. At yahawuni tenach tuasaga wujin yuchatula atgenada. Yuchagachtula adada. Yakutachsahas. Atlein llingit qw, atlein nach sa ti a. Hag gaw aga. So,
Adusa ahostir kuwasich. Yudu a sakidat. Was yisikuge?
Yechwaji itleich awaste. Uwatsech. Yechwaji dech du sai, du yatwu du wasa. Yak du shi. Kakuwatsech. Yechwaji chishugu a. Aga awaste. Kuwatsech yak du shi. Janaski a chosaku yaktishe kleinach a kitchach an kleinach a shitka kleinach a agquan ani auste ak kwan ani kuk we awas yidati awasti. Shaadaaxʼ sati ach yetki khuni.
Meshish.
One kanins kwasatin we shaadaaxʼ. Yek we sit taich yitlahashi gunil chish. Techwasaku wa nachsoy yach sakay. Yilkaku.
Yayidat adusawe Ḳák'w kutsati.
Okay.
Yayidat adusawe Ḳák'w kutsati.
Kes asa aye yeti. Ye awe khwaach guksa sto. Ya do. Ҭаҟәеиди ҟанахати дахрои has usadaq. Yaqayati qaq usani awa adaye uti. Gwell 1912 awa hasakawanig. Lltakat yatki qatuwasakushkunde haswu adi. Achwe angun de haswu sadaq. Akhu adeshitan in haswus asati. T'aawáḳ Ḳák'w di qadeshitan gwell telchushuguch wasatian. Chudechi awi tsagidi qo hastu na kweich sati. Gwell telhit qudzati qo yaq. Panacha da ituchwitan. Wasa tlatki tayit awe hastu uwan t'aawáḳ. We hechasaku wasa dosak tlingil qinach. We limestone karst? Telkadein chasaku we ache. Atlein wush kutzati atu. Yadu hasta ani po.
Yichwaji. Yeah, Slinget. Gusuewe Kathini. Kashugo Gusuewe Slinget. Yichwaji. Tsa. We. Stakhin T'aawáḳ askewa yechatuti ach ish tu yago yek yak yehayati Ḳák'w away gwell jinkat kanask ach katagu skewu yek yesa ka we kasiye at happened.
Kaudiya.
Kaudiya. Yeah, Gewu. Yeah, propeller. Ha Tundatani away. Wednesday. Qua. Thursday. It was Thursday. T'aawáḳ, basket bay, Cussier at Kawdiai. T'aawáḳ, Thinket, Chatsati, Ega.
Cussier ani owe. What Cussier at Yawhi. Played a hinsu Ḳák'w ish Hanakawni. What Tlach Cussier at the way a Kauda, Kawaha. With at Gikach. Yale sai a ka away. What do a saw? Yale Qaji. Yale. Which Adasa way. An Kasai. Gwell Yale is the teen at who. Gwell Cussier at owe. Wuhi. Wega. We Anika. Ja, jeder dacht was a gwe dech wes kallni ko T'aawáḳ zu tag a qaw zu wujin yuch gacht la bilchish.
Awe weg ja koyekt gaait je de zaken ayik tawat nog a speel. Awe je gaat de wasak singet genig Shaadaaxʼ. Awe ja achsaaien nach awe gaat we kiet wen Ţaawáḳ aye Ṭaawáḳ. Je satak gotsete. Ketu je satak gotsete dag sinaya gochtje wote. I had 1906 model. Zoeken nog kamadig aan het team. Ouwe tegen het we jou ken. Ja, hoe je aje of het wat zit. Kijk, ik zie wat je redt dat boot. Hoe je dat nog gaat je afkomen. Ouwe ja, ik zei het cool ouwe. Je dat zit ka. Ik toch eerst ik doe in vannacht dat kawaneke. Ja, ik zei je. Je dat kaaya. Ik je hou tegen. Takaya woetig. Hakustie ik. Ja gaat. Ja is kaartig. Gekekakt. Ja gaat. Ja tak dat zei ja gaat. Konnig ja tegen. Kustie dat ka. Wat tegen zei je. T'aawáḳ is ga. aan het kine, kusachakan kutsete, wega. Awe atayo atasaat genot. Ja is kade haus gaze. Atayo atasaat genot. Jo atayo atasaat ge aya. Ja teka te aya. Ja family aya has to gaan ate aya ja konaken. Aya tenagati aya T'aawáḳ. Yuqajaqi atqa. Tese kukute aya ya tu yedate atu kwik Ḳák'w washe. Teho aya so tese kukut. Si kukut aya ya kikea. Question katak patahatusho. Question katak kan katusho ke uste yakikea. Chayanas kahaya to hun khohas kahya kunashin. Aya tak ya shakak akaha aya usitini kaya. Chukaya usiku kusakakon satiye. Schandayana, got Tessa, the own of the Hania, and not to do it at the high or cool street. I should say. Schandayana, good the old shower, hitchower, because a conjo shower, hitch, ticket out ticket. Wasn't the two you gave us a con at the house, sit away at the great two day. With two day. T'aawáḳ to anete to hite at saayete Ganawa, Ganhaus, our Kahilton, with the Yana. A year to hit the Dennis, got work Hakon, where you took our Wayana too. Our co, our two doctor good, as cold that ya take the son, hot, I started to say a Hawaiiana. A two doctor good hour to Chechenwe, Sakon Husser. A yake one gun, to take gun, I as anything, now a shower hitch. So a shower hitch, so a shower hitch, so a shower hitch. Yaka, Hosiku, Ayacha, Sakon, Hanik den ko Ayacha to Sydney. A Hunko Hasaya Tachnaha, Jack. Was gets a Gerson, gets on to Nick den and the Yaka. Yakashakte to eat a ho, Geke Sakane. Ayahawa should at the ark. Cut our hot and cut our hot. Workers Hakon. Catches a kick the eye, our catch a tax and Ḳák'w the shut. Was gets a Gerson, Hakon take again. I just a time Ḳák'w the shut, our Oxiu. Workers Hakon take our Oxiu. Kawaii when we our T'aawáḳ city. A Joe T'aawáḳ was T'aawáḥ to take Kujia Hawaii, Hakon Hawa city, yes, sir. So I would talk to our towards the Goya Kashi, Katuke Kawuche. Yeah, our wood, the key on cow, Yasin get on it. I'll say, Connach house, the Khan. Ayasin get anika ate, Ayasin get anika, Ayasin get anika, Jayausi, Yataka, Ajaya ye, attach Kasnik. Kutsiki, Ayahati, ye Ayat Taslan, Ya attend to one Aya, Ya terrible cross, you do it, Sak, Ya go to Ade Anachna Ade. Akhan kaya yedo sa taslan aya shiyatehen ha shiyatehen ak chaye so aye haya so akhena khiyos khashi ak ye ayan patan ya itat ya atyat khatin khapasni khapena.
Is Jinka winner do Yachachoy Gwash Late Ḳák'w nach Wujin, Yukagachitla Adi. Gwash de Wutua Achwe Talk, a Tlachli Kudish Katlingway, that's a Koa Ya Achtuasago, Wujin Yukatitla Atkiha, Wasa Atkone, Wasa Wuti, Wasa Yeti, Ya Yidat, Ya Achtuasago Konachawe, Itu Wudugai, Kataku Hinyacheti. Ye awa ituwu, ye awa achtuati galchish. So we'll reflect for the next 10 minutes in our other language that we all know, and just sort of check in about how you're feeling. I said several times, I want you to be your inner slack tiding to be just right there, feeling calm and at peace, and you belong here, and it's all okay. These are big things that we're doing. And this was our first go, dusting off all the dust and getting up in the air and flapping our wings. So how was it? How'd it go? Questions, thoughts?
Can I say my thing? I was like just patiently waiting and the river kind of got away from me.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Jak eis klinik ach wasi ach. Ach ishlich Frank Jack Sr. U de saga na Shaadaax'ni tekwedi angun. Ach lichku ka Ḳák'w hunk woosh u yasika. Ḳák'w Dísi tansu.
Yakecha, gosh, sheesh. it's amazing to hear like these connections and to like hear these voices of people that many of us are related to or know. So, sheesh. Yeah, and it always like share, yeah, share what you got, and great stuff.
Kudziawe ya kun shkasnik. Kdain khoach. Do you katangi. Gukak and the tunch. Speak so clearly. I just love to listen to him.
Yeah, such a master and such an amazing pace and just like the voice. It's so wonderful. And yeah, the first one was recorded by Jillian Story and Constance Nash, and then the second one was recorded by Nora. You hear her at the end. And Nation Story just did a lot of work with Shaadaaxʼ, who was just an absolute legend, just in terms of what he's able to do. And if you read the biography, like just the incredible, not just the stories he knew, but just living this life, being born in the 1800s and living until the 19, 70s and 80s. And so just like an incredible life, which included being a field guide and um, a, getting attacked by a bear one time and like being saved by putting his rifle in its mouth, but then it threw him against these trees, just how incredibly strong they are. But uh yeah, and just thinking of the work that all of them did, Nash, Story, uh Dick and Nora, and just like the incredible, and then there's still like an incredible book of stories from Shaadaaxʼ that's gonna come out. Like he tells the whole Kiksadi cycle, and like he's a just incredible amount of stories and just showing like how much knowledge can be in a single person. And also like if you're into Lingi grammar, you want to nerd out on that, he's got it all. He's got it all. Like just especially like all these, the more you learn about these, like the consecutive, you just see it popping up all the time, like after this thing happened, and then how he's using these subordinatives and then also using these potentials and how those potentials like really can start to stack up in something like there was no way he could do anything, and so there's lots to sort of dive back into those, and then our work here is to sort of receive it and to respond to it and in it, which we'll continue to work on a rhythm. Like let me know if like things aren't working for you, like for whatever reason. We have the chat, we can sort of engage in other ways to make sure, but I do believe if we just stick with it, like this is the way, sometimes you got to get drug along, but like that's the only way to get there is to be around the whole language, which is what we've been working towards. So great work, everybody. Thoughts or questions?
Was yeah, do a how do you say? I learned something from this story.
Shkashnik adach. Well, I guess you could say chosaku yidat, or ach. I guess I would say wishkashnik tin ach I auchlatu Shaadaaxʼ. So I would say with this story, I was taught by Robert Zuboff.
Okay. That's cheese.
Ḥák'w.
I have a question.
Oh.
You know the verb seat, fill a container? Well, on page 64, Ḳák'w, it has Shaadaaxʼ. The only verb I could find is Shaadaaxʼ, and it's a L classifier. This has an N in it. Can you explain that? It's line 56, I think, on page 64.
So here,
Yep.
the na is the it's the conjugation prefix that's popping up in a progressive. So you have ya shan, just like ya nagut, ya anasquain, you have ya shanatiti. So it's when it is filling up.
Oh,
So that's
so the verb is L classifier.
well, this one it's a zero. I would listen to it really closely and just see if it's also if he's saying it with a TL. But it could be because usually with the difference between those, like if you say a shawahik, shawshahik, so shawahik is for it to be full. A shawshahik would be they filled it. And you would do that same thing with hick, it, and it. So they all have to do with filling. They all have zero classifier versions, which is for something to be full. Then they have L classifier versions, which is somebody to fill it. So when the tide comes in, too, nobody's filling, nobody's doing that. It's just getting full. And so that would be the big difference between the L classifier and the zeros with these, is you say the bucket's getting full or they are filling the bucket. So this is one where it introduces a subject with the L classifier. And so you could use that because you could say, uh, well, we were doing some Tlingit after dark phrases, and it was someone was coming up with Chatshaitlahik, which is you filled me up, which let you use your imagination for that. But you could say a shautlahik, they Isha a shautlahik, they filled up the bucket. And so that you have a zero classifier here, and you have na, ya, na in the progressive.
Chief,
And sometimes you get it and it for being full of a liquid with, I think it is overfill, like it's starting to spill, and then it is it's filling up with liquid.
which one's overfill?
Let me check. Share my screen while I'm browsing. So let's go down to go look for this one. So this is filled with liquid, would be it is filled with liquid. And apparently to be. So here you see the zero classifier, which they have is ya. And then L is for somebody to fill it. And this one's apparently to be pregnant as well, which is interesting. And then TL, this is overflowing. So
Okay, I have another question.
I guess you would, this is how you would, the old commercial with the Brim coffee. Yeah, what's the other question?
What were we doing today? Were we doing the 5-minute stories, or we were just commenting on this?
We have people just looking ahead to, like, you're going to tell a story that's at least 5 minutes long during the finals week. That's the end of April, but we have folks who are getting themselves ready. So very prepared students in this class. And so what we're doing through between now and then is we're just going to pick a few things and listen to them in class and respond to them. Some of them we might get to and we don't have the audio for it. I'm not sure. I think what we should do. So this week we have ones that we can all listen to. But I think next week we're still doing Hashuka. And I think we should just read them out loud ourselves. Especially, I think Natsetlane, we should. And then like we can either like kind of popcorn read it, we can go in a certain order, or if someone's feeling bold, they could say, I want to read that whole story to the class. We can decide that on Thursday. No pressure, no expectations.
And what was the woos? Kawus, what was the mouth of the hole in this story
They
that somebody stuck their head down in and yelled?
So if I was trying to, I think there's a word for it, but if you go to this area, and there's some spots in Prince of Wales and there's a whole bunch of spots where there's these limestone, these big set, it's like a whole bunch of limestone, and the way that the water and the wind hits it, you end up with a whole bunch of holes in it. I think it's called a karst. Is that what it's called? And apparently, yeah, and people, that's why I was very curious about this, is what he's saying is like people lived underneath the ground and that they would go under and inflate these seal skins, I think, and then the tide would just go over their whole community and then it'd come out and then they'd crawl out of their things again. And so that's why he's sort of talking about like this, and it's a place where strange things might happen, but it is also a place where there was a time, and he's going way back into when they used to live, because then they came out and then they built a whole community. There used to be a whole community there, and this is the place going back probably before this story was that little beaver. So there was a little beaver who made some things and somebody offended him, and so he went on this spot like an ish was there, a hole in the ice, and he just went around. And then Ḳák'w tells the story, and he slapped his tail, and it flipped the whole village upside down. And so that's why you've got those karsts and stuff that are sitting there. And so probably after that, maybe, and that must have been long, long time ago then. And then people were living in those holes, and sometimes the tide would come up. And I'm sure like we know now, there's certain spots, like I'm thinking of this place called Chukanani, which is it's got this one guy's name on it, and Juno's name's on everything. But it's this place where people like to go and sometimes duck hunt and walk their dogs. But it's a spot where it's all grassy, and sometimes it's even not muddy at all. But then sometimes it's completely covered in water. Like can't even see a single blade of grass because the water is so high there. But it's because you have these seasonal tides where sometimes you have in Disclain, especially, I think, you have these very high tides. And it also has to do with moon phases and stuff. So they all knew that stuff. And so they might have had villages that were just sort of like, oh, it's here. But then when the tide goes way up, we go actually underwater. And so but it was very unusual for that to be. But I know we were talking a little bit about Qatini. And everything, almost every Tlingit village, you had Qatini nearby and you had Goonhini nearby. So in almost every Tlingit village, you could find a place called Sakai River and a place called Springwater. And that's kind of the requirements for forming a village, as there usually needed to be those two things nearby. And as a Shukachari, I will accept the Sakai as the best compliment. So thank you. Oh, we're on the record. I don't know. It's not verifiable.
In the chat, the Gleitkakanok Keith. This is a fascinating discussion.
Mm. Jeez.
I really enjoyed today. I love the mixture from other folks of both questions and just statements and comments. Like, especially the questions where I am jumping back in was like really, I could actually follow it, and then it helped me follow more when you were responding, Kone. And so I really like the mix of folks doing that. And then when I get really caught up when I'm listening and reading it, more focused on the tools of storytelling in it, the actual analysis of how it's done, like how the use of doubt can be done, how it's the word or isn't used a lot, but it's used a lot in English storytelling, the use of repetitives and how that's different than repetitives in a more classical literature sense, like Dickens. And so I got really wrapped up on that and often had to remind myself of like, no, I need to comment on the story, not how the story is always told. Because I don't have the Tlingit language yet to be talking about how our story is told. I can barely talk about what the story was telling.
Yeah, cheese. I think mankas and kachu are kind of the two ways to say or, but I feel like those are really have been pushed into Tlingit so that we can use or the way we do in English. Like it's used so very much. And then I think just to sort of one thing that we should just be totally okay with is I was trying to say something, but then we ended up talking about something totally different. But part of this is probably just like it's just going to happen. But also, so don't be upset if you bring something up and then we end up talking about something else, because sometimes it's just like we're not fully understanding each other, or it's just springboarding one thought to the next. And we're working our way up to full, deep conversations in Tlingit, and it takes a long time. But I think these like classes like this, like we've run them before, but not like they're getting more and more complete each time in terms of how much Tlingit we're engaging with and how we're engaging with it. So y'all are doing a fabulous job. This is what the second class, second class, like boom, let's go hang out with our great uncle Shaadaaxʼ, and it's amazing though, like all this stuff, like. I just wonder what did they think about even when he was recording this? Was he thinking like who I don't know if someone's gonna understand this because here we are 50 years later understanding it, right? And yeah, you can keep going back into these stories and we'll continue to get stuff that informs how you tell stories.
I guess my last one is I really appreciate how you gave a little, like, I know there's the biographies in there, but you set the stage full of background about Shaadaaxʼ and his age and when he was born. And I think if that could keep being a basis, because I like to know when someone's born, when they're talking, and where they're coming from, because I do think it changes along with, my comments always about men and women speakers, but just seeing how different people flow through the language. So Ganeshish for setting that for us.
Sheesh.
Could I ask a question?
Ah.
Well, when we were going through the reading of the story, there was, it's not right in front of me now, but there is the going sit tai, and that it said that going under the glacier that it was called forward. I mean, the song came to be. Can you say anything more about that verb? Because I just found it really a curious, verb of calling forward, or I mean, is that just in English that it sounds? I'm not sure about if it says something about the composing, or that that it was like something that they did, inspired by the moments. I don't know how to quite put that.
Right.
There you go.
Do you know what line that was on by chance?
Let's see here.
Like 105.
Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so when we look at this, floating under the glacier gave them their song. So we're going down, well, here. Ya sit tayinach haswutlahashi aya at hashakaut. That is a giant verb. This is on my list of, I don't have favorite verbs, but if I did, it might be this one. So I have a little bit of history with this verb. We often hear it as shukashchs, and I'll tell you briefly my history with this verb. So the first time I started thinking about it, we were working on translating a Raven story from Tlingit to English. And Raven starts to use this way of talking where he's using a lot of hortative verbs, and then he ends up getting what he wants. And Chukshani, Marge Dudson, said, "There he goes again. Shukalchucht." And I was like, "What's that?" She said, "That's what he's doing." It's like, okay. And so sometimes when you work with elders, you don't always get the answers you want from your questions. But if you're patient, I think they come. Because then we started working on a Frank Italia story like a week or two later. And he starts saying, "Shukarchucht, shukarchucht." I was like, "That's that word. You said that word just the other week, didn't you?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's kind of being coy about it, I think. And so then I looked it up, and in the dictionaries, it's saying to compose a song or to sing a song that requires a response. I'm like, huh, well, it's got to be something a little. So it has to do with like song composure. But then when you really study it, it's all about the love songs, the one that's really like you sing a love song, someone else sings a love song. They're usually really sad too. But when we look at this, it means to compose a song that requires a response, I think. But then a week or two later, I was in the Anchorage airport and I was like, I should grab some breakfast. I caught a morning flight up. Let me grab some breakfast before I continue my flight to, I think I was going to Fairbanks for a language conference. And I saw Kingi Stee eating breakfast. I was like, hey, can I sit with you? I sat there and ate some breakfast. And I said, what does this word mean to you? Shukalchuchts. And he says, oh, that's calling the end back to the beginning. Because this means the end of something. This is on something. This means to beckon or to summon. So it's a big, big word when we look at what's going on here. So what it could be as well is like this thing that happened required them to respond with a song. That's what I think it says. And then I think so. I'm glad that you pointed out that verb and that you caught it as we continue to catch these things that are sometimes really big things. What's so interesting is if you think of all of us together, we have probably read these things 1,000 times, and we've probably listened to them a whole bunch of times. But every time we go in, we find something new. It's sort of like when they said, if you're long time ago when someone was not feeling well, if they were really seriously ill, hasqanit kanai naqa haswukuti at katuyikte aya itlakat aya kayit katlaye wuti chitlaika kayani koa yateyahayu hasausaku a atina hasitiweta. So when someone was sick, their clan opposites would go look for medicine. And they said they'd go to these spots, and then they'd say all the plants would be just still, but they'd see one moving like that. And they'd be like, that's the one they need. And so sometimes I think stuff like that happens to us with the language, where something emerges that we need to. Well, that's a good place to end it. Sheesh. Give your brain a break and pat yourself on the back. Zero George said, pat on the back never hurt anybody. So, good cheese.
Next time, 3 stories before you leave us. Strong Man, The Woman Who Married a Bear by Tom Peters, The Woman Who Married a Bear by FD Senior and Kotz.
Yeah, we got a big meal on Thursday. And we'll see how we want to handle that too, because I don't want to cast anything aside. So we're going down to southern Tlingit land. We're going to listen to a southern Tlingit speaker from T'aawáḳ. Then we're going up to both Yakutat and Teslin for a northern song. And then we're going to Well, I guess it's Ḳák'w maybe. But the story comes from Tanta. So we'll be all over the map. If we don't get to Ḳátzʼ, we might kick it over to the week after because we might need some separation between them. But these ones are all pretty lengthy. I think we have probably well over an hour of Tlingit. So think about how you want to engage with those, and we'll check in on Thursday before we start recording the class.
Also, the translations for the 2 sentences on the syllabus?
Yes.
Okay.
Remember
Good.
that.
Okay, Ganatish.
Tish.
Can I grab you for 1 minute? I have a quick advising question.